It wouldn't be until the mid-2000s that basketball, specifically the NBA, gained global popularity, thanks largely to the personal success of international players such as Hall of Famers Tony Parker from France, Yao Ming from China, and Dirk Nowitzki from Germany.
A heartbreaking defeat as Dirk Nowitzki wins the game. Unbelievable finish.
This eventual success of the NBA in the world stage was the culmination of years of work by the league to promote the game. The NBA had been trying to grow the sport of basketball internationally since the late 70s through their initiative, the NBA Global Games. The event involves a series of contests featuring NBA teams that are played outside the US and Canada, consisting of NBA franchises either playing one another or foreign teams that are usually held during the preseason.
Oklahoma City, Westbrook in transition.
The first official overseas Global Games contest was an exhibition matchup between the Washington Bullets and Maccabi Tel Aviv on the 7th of September 1978 in the Israeli city. At the time, the Bullets were NBA champions after defeating the Seattle Supersonics in 7 games for the 1978 finals.
The Washington Bullets jubilantly file off the floor, and the crowd here in Seattle, rather than booing, comes to its feet and gives both these teams a tremendous ovation.
Yet, despite their success at the highest level of the game, Washington would lose the international contest.
But in the end, Maccabi Tel Aviv held on to beat the Bullets by a point 98-97.
In the years that have followed, the Global Games have grown in popularity, so much so that the NBA eventually decided to host a regular season game outside of North America. For the opening contest of the 1991 campaign, the league opened the season with a matchup between the Suns and the Jazz in Tokyo, Japan in November 1990. The NBA has since gone on and hosted a number of regular season games internationally.
Leaves it for Wembanyama. Bonjour!
Under the banner of the Global Games, the league has continued to hold a series of exhibition contests between either NBA teams or featuring the league's franchises taking on clubs from international competitions. One such event was the Europe Live Tour in 2006, which would prove to be noteworthy for a number of unusual reasons.
Chris Webber gets the ball to Kyle Korver for the lay-in and the foul. Take a look at the replay. After he makes the basket, he plays a little football for the fans in Spain by using his head.
The 2006 Europe Live Tour was produced jointly by the NBA and the International Association, the EuroLeague, and sponsored by EA Sports. The tour involved 4 NBA franchises both training and playing games throughout the continent in Germany, Russia, France, Italy, and Spain. The Spurs went to Villeurbanne in France, the Suns traveled to Treviso, Italy, the 76ers visited Barcelona in Spain, and the Clippers went to Moscow, Russia. All up, the tour spanned around a week, from between the 5th and the 11th of October, and consisted of the NBA teams conducting their first week of their respective training camps throughout the continent while also participating in a variety of games. The event began with 4 standalone exhibition contests. Later, 2 separate mini-tournaments were played in Moscow and the German city of Cologne respectively, involving the Clippers, Suns, and 76ers, taking on international teams, along with one game in which the Suns played the 76ers. Ultimately, Philadelphia's franchise player at the time, future Hall of Famer Allen Iverson, was the standout player of the event as the overall top scorer. But Iverson's individual success was far from the biggest news from the tournament. Rather, the losses were. Headed into the event, the NBA teams were expected to dominate. Instead, 2 of the league's franchises made history for all the wrong reasons. On the 5th of October, as one of the standalone games before the tournament, the 76ers took on the Spanish team FC Barcelona in their home city and lost.
The Sixers fall to a European team 104-99, the first NBA team to go to Europe and lose to a European team since 1987.
Just a couple of days after the 76ers Barcelona game as part of the Moscow tournament, the Clippers took on the Russian team CSKA Moscow in their home city and also lost. Though, unlike in the 76ers case, the loss was a blowout, 94-75. To add insult to injury, the Clippers had the added embarrassment of having a strange memento commemorating their unexpected failure. Understandably, with the NBA Global Games dating back decades and proving to be popular, there's been a number of collectibles and novelty items produced in association with the various events over the years. And there's one novelty gift from the 2006 Europe Live Tour that stands out. For the event, a number of special jerseys were produced in relation to the NBA franchises involved. Specifically, for the games between the NBA teams and the international franchises, jerseys were made for the Americans with the opposing international team's flag incorporated into the usual design. Presumably, of these types of jerseys, Iverson's game-worn one from the contest between the 76ers and Barcelona would be the most sought after. But there was at least one other novelty jersey produced as part of the Europe Live Tour that's arguably just as rare as Iverson's, and possibly even more valuable for some truly bizarre and disturbing reasons. Nowadays, it's common for American sports teams who win a championship in their respective field to celebrate the accomplishment by visiting the White House and present the sitting president with a personalized jersey from the team. And evidently, back in 2006, Clippers officials were inspired by the tradition when it came to the franchise's game against CSKA. Because at halftime during the contest, the NBA commissioner at the time, David Stern, and Los Angeles' owner, Donald Sterling, presented Russia's then Minister of Defense and Deputy Prime Minister, Sergei Ivanov, with a personalized Clippers jersey for the then Russian President, Vladimir Putin. The jersey appears to have been signed by most, if not all, of the players on the Clippers roster at the time. When the Europe Live Tour took place, Putin had been the leader of Russia since May 2000. Ultimately, he'd remain in the position up until May 2008, after which he became the prime minister of the country, if only in title, while still running the nation up until May 2012, before resuming his position as Russia's president. And as of April 2026, he's remained in the position ever since. Under Putin's reign, Russia's political system has been frequently accused of operating under an authoritarian dictatorship, characterized by corruption and human rights violations. For whatever reason, Putin didn't attend the contest between CSKA and the Clippers back in 2006, and the leader has never been pictured with the jersey either. So it's unclear if Putin ever even received the gift. Not that that really matters, because ultimately the value of the jersey lies more in its novelty, its unusual historical significance, and the highly questionable decision to produce it in the first place than the person it was specially made for. Obviously, the Putin jersey, like the global games itself, was supposed to represent and embody the power of the sport of basketball for unity, specifically the relationship between the US and countries like Russia, who'd been part of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, better known as the Soviet Union. Officially, the Cold War between America and the USSR spanned between March 1947 and December 1991. However, suspicion between the US and former members of the Soviet Union never really ended, particularly in regards to Russia. In fact, the contest between the Clippers and CSKA was monumental because it marked the first time an NBA team had played in Russia since 1988, when the Hawks traveled to the Soviet Union for a 15-day goodwill basketball tour. For the event, Atlanta took on the Soviet Union All-Star team in 3 separate contests held throughout the USSR. All up, the Hawks won 2 of the 3 games, the last of which was played in Moscow, that the Soviets won 132-123. Still, despite the historical significance of the Clippers taking on CSKA, the decision to produce a Los Angeles jersey in honor of Putin was strange and alarming. Given the size, power, and influence of Russia, Putin's style of rule has served to make him one of the most historically significant but highly controversial political figures of all time, someone that anyone in their right mind, at the very least, would think twice about publicly paying respect to with a personalized gift, even if only to avoid the bad optics. But that kind of common sense was far from commonplace during Sterling's reign over the Clippers.
Вы меня рассмешили.
In October 2024, comedian and actor Billy Crystal was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame as a superfan of the Clippers over his unwavering support for the team, dating back decades. Another high-profile fan of the franchise is artist Eric Bowie, better known as LOL WTF Eric, who has posted numerous comedic illustrations detailing his personal experience as a loyal Clippers fan, as told by the fictional private life of the team's mascot, Chuck the Condor. And the vast majority of Eric's work has a dark, self-deprecating tone, given the emotional roller coaster he's been on due to his choice to stand by the team, no matter what, for years on end. And it's telling that 2 of the biggest, longtime fans of the Clippers are comedians. This is because there's no way loyal Clippers fans whose commitment to the team dates back years, including the Sterling era, could legitimately support the team without having a great sense of humor about their choice to wholeheartedly embrace a franchise that was so actively self-destructive for so long. All up, Sterling owned the Clippers from May 1981 up until August 2014, when he was forced by the NBA to sell the team due to racist comments that he made that were caught on tape.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. You have to.
Ultimately, the forced sale was just a culmination of various other controversies that Sterling had been involved in, many of which revolved around allegations of abuse and harassment of employees, both within the Clippers franchise and in his various other business ventures. This is why no one associated with Sterling expressed surprise at the tape, nor tried to defend him against accusations of racism.
But what do you feel about Sterling?
Certainly, no one who had ever played for Sterling was surprised by the tape, least of all the team's franchise player at the time, Blake Griffin. Shortly after Sterling was forced to sell the Clippers, in October 2014, Griffin spoke with the magazine GQ, during which he mentioned that he wasn't at all surprised to learn about Sterling being caught on tape saying something racist. This is because Griffin had known Sterling was racist before he even met him. Understandably, shortly after being selected with the first pick of the 2009 draft by the Clippers, Griffin had Googled his new boss, and the results were filled with allegations and stories about Sterling's attitudes and behavior towards others who were minorities that invariably had racist undertones. So, when Sterling lost control of the Clippers, it closed out a long, embarrassing chapter in the franchise's history. In fact, Sterling's time managing the team was so full of various dramas and controversies that it's understandable how and why the jersey for Putin and the inherent problems with it went largely overlooked. To be fair to Sterling, when he decided to produce a Clippers jersey in honor of Putin back in 2006, it was before the leader was truly infamous. It wouldn't be until after the 2006 Europe Live tour that Putin's reputation would become common knowledge when numerous political enemies and critics of his died under mysterious circumstances, many of which were often horrific. In fact, in an eerie twist of fate, the first high-profile death linked to Putin would actually happen during the Europe Live tour on the very same day Sterling presented Ivanov with a jersey for Putin. The 7th of October 2006 was Putin's 54th birthday. And although he's never officially been linked to the incident, it appears as though he or someone close to him arranged for a special birthday present, the elimination of one of Putin's biggest critics, investigative journalist Anna Politkovskaya, who was found dead in the elevator of her apartment block in what was clearly a targeted attack. However, something Sterling would have, or at least should have been well aware of when he decided to produce a jersey in honor of Putin was the incident in the Russian town of Beslan just a couple of years earlier. And this alone should have made Sterling think twice about the gift. In early September 2004, more than 1,100 people, 777 of them children, were taken hostage at the town's school by enemies of the Russian government. The attack resulted in a standoff with Russian authorities from between the 1st of September and the 3rd, when Putin made the controversial decision to prioritize ending the standoff and sending a message to Russia's enemies over the lives of the hostages. Consequently, the choice resulted in the deaths of more than 300 people, 186 of which were children.
Russian security forces had violated the victims' right to life when they moved in to free the school.
Evidently, Sterling either somehow didn't know about Beslan or didn't care about it. Both possibilities are equally plausible, given the willfully ignorant way Sterling ran the Clippers. Over the course of his 33-year ownership of the team, the Clippers lost 50 or more games per season for all but 2 of their campaigns. And most of the team's fails during that period were the direct result of the franchise's owner himself, who was notorious for micromanaging the team, despite knowing little about the sport of basketball, let alone about how to manage a franchise at the highest level of the game.
That's the Donald Sterling you know.
That's the Donald Sterling I know.
The Clippers' origins date back to 1970, when the team joined the league as the Buffalo Braves as part of an expansion. In 1978, the franchise relocated to San Diego and rebranded as the Clippers in reference to a type of sailboat designed for speed that had history with the area. The city was especially happy to welcome the team, as they had earlier lost 2 basketball franchises in the last few years. In 1971, the San Diego Rockets relocated to Houston, while the ABA team, the San Diego Sails, folded in 1975. Understandably, when Sterling bought the Clippers, fans were concerned they might want to relocate the team. Initially, Sterling assured fans that they had nothing to worry about.
I just want to stay here in San Diego.
Does this mean that the team will stay here indefinitely?
Absolutely.
Sterling then tried to move the franchise to Los Angeles in 1982. It was only because of the backlash from both the league and Clippers fans that Sterling backed down from his original plan. But it was painfully obvious that he still wanted to move the team. Sterling had been inspired to buy the Clippers after his friend Jerry Buss bought the Lakers in 1979. Following the purchase, Buss had immediate success, winning a championship in 1980.
There it is, it's over, and the most valuable player is Magic Johnson. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship.
When Sterling bought an NBA team, he wanted and expected to have the exact same success. And he had tried to achieve this simply by copying Buss. Although Sterling was stopped from moving the Clippers to the very same city as Buss's team, like he had hoped to in 1982, Sterling was still able to follow in Buss's footsteps in another way. For the 82-83 season, Sterling had the Clippers logo redesigned from the simple but fitting image of sails to what was a blatant and shameless copy of the Lakers' iconic logo. Then, for the start of the 84-85 season, fed up being told what to do by Clippers fans in the league, Sterling relocated the team to Los Angeles anyway. Although the NBA fined Sterling $25 million, Sterling countersued, which led the league to eventually back down and reduce the fine to just $6 million. Eventually, with NBA officials reluctant to hold Sterling accountable, even when he blatantly violated the league's rules, and Sterling not caring what Clippers fans thought, he proceeded to run the franchise exactly how he wanted, which, like his other businesses, meant cutting corners and running it as cheaply as possible. And his approach showed, as the Clippers often landed high picks in the draft, only to overlook future Hall of Famers, because Sterling hadn't wanted to pay the best scouts available in order to determine the right player to select, like what happened for the 1985 draft, when the Clippers took Benoit Benjamin with the 3rd pick over future Hall of Famers Chris Mullin, who the Warriors took with the 7th pick, Karl Malone, who the Jazz selected with the 13th, and Joe Dumars, who the Pistons took with the 18th selection. Arguably, there are only a select few good moves that the Clippers made in Sterling's 3 decades in charge, though even then, Sterling either found a way to ruin things, or, quite simply, someone else deserved credit for the team's success. In November 1989, the Clippers traded for Ron Harper Sr., who'd go on and represent the team up until the end of the 93-94 season, when he left in free agency, joining the Bulls in September 1994 after comparing playing for Sterling to serving time in prison. The decision to select Lamar Odom with the 4th pick of the 1999 draft was another good move by the Clippers during the Sterling era, though the decision had more to do with the team's executive Alger Baylor than Sterling. And ultimately, the team let Odom walk in free agency when he signed with the Heat in August 2003, and Sterling refused to match Miami's offer for the restricted free agent. The Clippers' trade for Alton Brand in July 2002 was also a good move. All up, he'd represent the team twice as an All-Star in 2002 and 2006, before leaving in free agency at the end of the 07-08 season when he signed with the 76ers in July 2008. There's also the team's 05-06 campaign, when the team finally managed to make not just the postseason, but get to the second round of the playoffs where they matched up against the Suns, though ultimately Los Angeles would lose the series in 7 games.
The Western Conference Finals are set. The Phoenix Suns will take on the Dallas Mavericks.
But again, credit for the Clippers' 05-06 season belonged to Elgin, who was named the 2006 Executive of the Year. Outside of those few positives during Sterling's 30-plus years helming the franchise, there was little for Clippers fans to cheer about, thanks almost exclusively to the owner's often baffling decisions. Fortunately for the team's fans, nowadays, since Steve Ballmer bought the team back in 2014, the franchise has been significantly better off.
How do you think Steve Ballmer's doing so far?
I think he's doing great.
And that's even with some serious controversies and questionable decisions during the Ballmer era. But despite the team's upturn in fortune, there's still no denying that, under Sterling, the Clippers were one of the biggest laughingstocks in the history of American sports due to one questionable decision after another from the owner. So, if you're a hardcore Clippers fan that was unfortunate enough to have to endure Sterling's reign, who also has a decent amount of disposable income, Putin's Clippers jersey would make for the perfect memento of your dedication to the franchise. Because if you can't deny your team's embarrassing history, you might as well have a sense of humor about yourself and embrace it. Ultimately, making a jersey for one of the most controversial political figures of all time, who almost certainly has little interest, let alone passion for the game of basketball, perfectly encapsulates Sterling's bizarre thought process that characterized both Sterling as a person and his excruciating time with the Clippers with these constant nonsensical moves. So, if ever Putin's jersey became available for purchase, it would be worth a longtime Clippers fan getting their hands on it. Not for the individual it was produced in honor of, but to keep as a sarcastic homage to the Clippers' extensive bizarre history that longtime fans are, and will always be, painfully well aware of.
Donald Sterling, who promised to make San Diego proud of the Clippers. He didn't.
What do you feel about Sterling?